Welcome to day 101 of our Bible reading plan. Today we're reading Numbers chapter 8, Numbers chapter 9, Ecclesiastes chapter 7, Ecclesiastes chapter 8, Matthew chapter 2 verse 1 to verse 15, 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 11 to verse 21, and Psalms chapter 101. We're reading from the Berean Standard Bible. Numbers chapter 8. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and tell him, when you set up the 7 lamps, they are to light the area in front of the lampstand." And Aaron did so. He set up the lamps facing towards the front of the lampstand, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. This is how the lampstand was constructed. It was made of hammered gold from its base to its blossoms, fashioned according to the pattern the Lord had shown Moses. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Take the Levites from among the Israelites and make them ceremonially clean. This is what you must do to cleanse them. Sprinkle them with the water of purification. Have them shave their whole bodies and wash their clothes, and so purify themselves. Then have them take a young bull with its grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, and you are to take a second young bull for a sin offering. Bring the Levites before the tent of meeting and assemble the whole congregation of Israel. You are to present the Levites before the Lord and have the Israelites lay their hands upon them. Aaron is to present the Levites before the Lord as a wave offering from the sons of Israel, so that they may perform the service of the Lord. And the Levites are to lay their hands on the heads of the bulls and offer to the Lord, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, to make atonement for the Levites. You are to have the Levites stand before Aaron and his sons and then present them before the Lord as a wave offering. In this way, you shall separate the Levites from the rest of the Israelites, and the Levites will belong to me. After you have cleansed them and presented them as a wave offering, they may come to serve at the tent of meeting. For the Levites have been wholly given to me from among the sons of Israel. I have taken them for myself in place of all who come first from the womb, the firstborn of all the sons of Israel. For every firstborn male in Israel is mine, both man and beast. I set them apart for myself on the day I struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. But I have taken the Levites in place of all the firstborn among the sons of Israel. And I have given the Levites as a gift to Aaron and his sons from among the Israelites to perform the service for the Israelites at the tent of meeting, and to make atonement on their behalf, so that no plague will come against the Israelites when they approach the sanctuary." So Moses, Aaron, and the whole congregation of Israel did with the Levites everything that the Lord had commanded Moses they should do. The Levites purified themselves and washed their clothes, and Aaron presented them as a wave offering before the Lord. Aaron also made atonement for them to cleanse them. After that, the Levites came to perform their service at the tent of meeting in the presence of Aaron and his sons. Thus, they did with the Levites just as the Lord had commanded Moses. And the Lord said to Moses, this applies to the Levites: "Men 25 years of age or older shall enter to perform the service in the work at the tent of meeting. But at the age of 50, they must retire from performing the work and no longer serve. After that, they may assist their brothers in fulfilling their duties at the tent of meeting, but they themselves are not to do the work." This is how you are to assign responsibilities to the Levites. Numbers chapter 9. In the first month of the second year, after Israel had come out of the land of Egypt, the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai. The Israelites are to observe the Passover at its appointed time. You are to observe it at the appointed time, at twilight on the 14th day of this month, in accordance with its statutes and ordinances. So Moses told the Israelites to observe the Passover, and they did so in the wilderness of Sinai at twilight on the 14th day of the first month. The Israelites did everything just as the Lord had commanded Moses. But there were some men who were unclean due to a dead body, so they could not observe the Passover on that day. And they came before Moses and Aaron that same day and said to Moses, We are unclean because of a dead body, but why should we be excluded from presenting the Lord's offering with the other Israelites at the appointed time? Wait here until I find out what the Lord commands concerning you. Moses replied. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites, when any one of you or your descendants is unclean because of a dead body or is away on a journey, he may still observe the Passover to the Lord. Such people are to observe it at twilight on the 14th day of the second month. They are to eat the lamb together with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They may not leave any of it until morning or break any of its bones. They must observe the Passover according to all its statutes. But if a man who is ceremonially clean and is not on a journey still fails to observe the Passover, he must be cut off from his people because he did not present the Lord's offering at its appointed time. That man will bear the consequences of his sin. If a foreigner dwelling among you wants to observe the Passover to the Lord, he is to do so according to the Passover statutes and its ordinances. You are to apply the same statutes to both the foreigner and the native of the land. On the day that the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, was set up, the cloud covered it and appeared like fire above the tabernacle from evening until morning. It remained that way continually. The cloud would cover the tabernacle by day, and at night it would appear like fire. Whenever the cloud was lifted from above the tent, the Israelites would set out, and wherever the cloud settled, there the Israelites would camp. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at the Lord's command, they camped. As long as the cloud remained over the tabernacle, they remained encamped. Even when the cloud lingered over the tabernacle for many days, the Israelites kept the Lord's charge and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud remained over the tabernacle for only a few days, and they would camp at the Lord's command and set out at the Lord's command. Sometimes the cloud remained only from evening until morning, and when it lifted in the morning, they would set out, whether it was by day or by night. When the cloud was taken up, they would set out. Whether the cloud lingered for 2 days, a month, or longer, the Israelites camped and did not set out as long as the cloud remained over the tabernacle. But when it was lifted, they would set out. They camped at the Lord's command and they set out at the Lord's command. They carried out the Lord's charge according to his command through Moses. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. A good name is better than fine perfume, and one's day of death is better than his day of birth. It is better to enter a house of mourning than a house of feasting, since death is the end of every man, and the living should take this to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for a sad countenance is good for the heart. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of pleasure. It is better to heed a wise man's rebuke than to listen to the song of fools. For like the crackling of thorns under the pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This too is futile. Surely extortion turns a wise man into a fool, and a bribe corrupts the heart. The end of a matter is better than the beginning, and a patient spirit is better than a proud one. Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger settles in the lap of a fool. Do not say, why were the old days better than these? For it is unwise of you to ask about these. Wisdom, like an inheritance, is good, and it benefits those who see the sun. For wisdom, like money, is a shelter, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of its owner. Consider the work of God, who can straighten what he has bent. In the day of prosperity, be joyful, but in the day of adversity, consider this. God has made one of these along with the other, so that a man cannot discover anything that will come after him. In my futile life, I have seen both of these, a righteous man perishing in his righteousness, and a wicked man living long in his wickedness. Do not be overly righteous, and do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Do not be excessively wicked, and do not be a fool. Why should you die before your time? It is good to grasp the one and not let the other slip from your hand, for he who fears God will follow both warnings. Wisdom makes the wise man stronger than 10 rulers in a city. Surely there is no righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. Do not pay attention to every word that is spoken, or you may hear your servants cursing you. For you know in your heart that many times you yourself have cursed others. All these I tested by wisdom, saying, I resolved to be wise, but it was beyond me. What exists is out of reach and very deep. Who can fathom it? I directed my mind to understand, to explore, to search out wisdom and explanations, and to understand the stupidity of wickedness and the folly of madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman who is a snare, whose heart is a net, and whose hands are chains. The man who pleases God escapes her, but the sinner is ensnared. Behold, says the teacher, I have discovered this by adding one thing to another to find an explanation. While my soul was still searching, but not finding, among 1,000 I have found one upright man. But among all these, I have not found one such woman. Only this have I found. I have discovered that God made men upright, but they have sought out many schemes. Our next reading is Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Who is like the wise man who knows the interpretation of a matter? A man's wisdom brightens his face, and the sternness of his face is changed. Keep the king's command, I say, because of your oath before God. Do not hasten to leave his presence, and do not persist in a bad course, for he will do whatever he pleases. For the king's word is supreme, and who can say to him, what are you doing? Whoever keeps his command will come to no harm, and a wise heart knows the right time and procedure. For there is a right time and procedure to every purpose, though a man's mystery weighs heavily upon him. Since no one knows what will happen, who can tell him what is to come? As no man has power over the wind to contain it, so no one has authority over his day of death. As no one can be discharged in wartime, so wickedness will not release those who practice it. All these I have seen, applying my mind to every deed that is done under the heaven. There is a time when one man lords it over another to his own detriment. Then too, I saw the burial of the wicked who used to go in and out of the holy place, and they were praised in the city where they had done so. This too is futile. When the sentence for a crime is not speedily executed, the heart of men become fully set on doing evil. Although a sinner does evil 100 times and still lives long, yet I also know that it will go well with those who fear God, who are reverent in his presence. Yet, because the wicked do not fear God, it will not go well with them, and their days will not lengthen like a shadow. There's a futility that is done on the earth. There are righteous men who get what the actions of the wicked deserve, and there are wicked men who get what the actions of the righteous deserve. I say that this too is futile. So I commended the enjoyment of life, because there is nothing better for a man under the sun than to eat and drink and be merry. For this joy will accompany him in his labor during the days of his life that God gives him under the sun. When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe the task that one performs on the earth, though his eyes do not sleep in the day or even in the night, I saw every work of God, and that a man is unable to comprehend the work that is done under the sun. Despite his efforts to search it out, he cannot find its meaning. Even if the wise man claims to know, he is unable to comprehend. Now we're going to read Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 to verse 15. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem asking, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw a star in the east and have come to worship him. When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had assembled all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. In Bethlehem in Judea, they replied, for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people Israel. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and learned from them the exact time the star had appeared. And sending them to Bethlehem, he said, Go and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, report to me, that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way. And the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stood over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with great delight. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they fell down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they withdrew to their country by another route. When the Magi had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother by night, and withdrew to Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. This fulfilled what the Lord had spoken through the prophet: "Out of Egypt I called my son." Now we're going to read 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 11 to verse 21. "I have become a fool, but you drove me to it. In fact, you should have commended me, since I am in no way inferior to those super apostles, even though I am nothing. The true marks of an apostle, signs, wonders, and miracles, were performed among you with great perseverance. In what way were you inferior to the other churches, except that I was not a burden to you? Forgive me this wrong. See, I am ready to come to you a third time, and I will not be a burden, because I am not seeking your possessions, but you. For children should not have to save up for their parents, but parents for their children. And for the sake of your souls, I will most gladly spend my money and myself. If I love you more, will you love me less? Be that as it may, I was not a burden to you, but crafty as I am, I caught you by trickery. Did I exploit you by anyone I sent you? I urged Titus to visit you, and I sent our brother with him. Did Titus exploit you in any way? Did we not walk in the same spirit and follow in the same footsteps? Have you been thinking all along that we were making a defense to you? We speak before God in Christ, and all of this, beloved, is to build you up. For I am afraid that when I come, I may not find you as I wish, and you may not find me as you wish. I fear that there may be quarreling, jealousy, rage, rivalry, slander, gossip, arrogance, and disorder. I am afraid that when I come again, my God will humble me before you, and I will be grieved over many who have sinned earlier and have not repented of their acts of impurity, sexual immorality, and debauchery. Now we're going to read Psalms 101, which is our last reading for today. "I will sing of your loving devotion and justice. To you, O Lord, I will sing praises. I will ponder the way that is blameless. When will you come to me? I will walk in my house with integrity of heart. I will set no worthless thing before my eyes. I hate the work of those who fall away. It shall not cling to me. A perverse heart shall depart from me. I will know nothing of evil. Whoever slanders his neighbor in secret, I will put to silence. The one with haughty eyes and a proud heart, I will not endure. My eyes favor the faithful of the land, that they may dwell with me. He who walks in the way of integrity shall minister to me. No one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who tells lies shall stand in my presence. Every morning I will remove all the wicked of the land, that I may cut off every evildoer from the city of the Lord." May the Lord bless the reading and hearing of his word, and may we receive the grace to be doers of the word, not readers and hearers only. In Jesus' name, amen.